can they cope with the normal stressors that come with our normal day life, right?
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Earrings Off. We want to invite you to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. You can find us on Facebook at Earrings Off Podcast and on Instagram at The Earrings Off Podcast.
Welcome to Earrings Off. I'm Lou.
And I'm Teresa. Let's get started.
Hello, Angela, and welcome to Earrings Off. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to jump right into the questions. What was the impetus to you becoming a spiritual and mental wellness coach? And tell us about your journey.
Absolutely. Well, Lou and Teresa, first, let me just say thank you all so much for just having me. Mm-hmm. I'm super excited to be here. And let me just tell you, your slogan and your purpose it's right up my alley. That earrings, you all nailed that, and it speaks to my inner being. I think absolutely. So, it's no secret for me with my family. It's a running joke in my family that Angela's best friends with everyone. She just doesn't know their names yet. And then in growing up, right, it was always the peanuts, right?
I just want to stop you because that must be a thing in your family because your mother said that to us about you.
Yep, it's a thing. It's the running joke because even as a child, I'd run up and hug people and people would just open up and start talking to me, right? So it's like, no,
oh, wow,
your new friend, what's their name? I have no idea. Friends forever, right? So that's just a part of my just internal being of just really knowing to connect to people is important. Mom always also jokes and says that she named me Angela for a reason. The name Angela means God's secret messenger. So being just have that level of discernment to talk to people, it's just who I am. I don't know anything different. So in growing up, we have our family thing is we are teachers, preachers, and entrepreneurs. Right. So the idea that it somehow got into one being for myself was pretty cool. And I appreciate it. So it started, I went to school. I got my degree in psychology. I've got a master's in higher education with a concentration in students for leadership success. And I was able to take that, started working as a qualified mental health professional and loved it. Right, was working with adults and children that had either minor or very severe mental health diagnosis. I would go into their homes and provide one-on-one therapies and interventions. And then I was also training a lot of the other QMHPs because of some of the interventions that I came up with were really making some success. Okay. But you can imagine having a personality like mine with a lot of energy, that was waning on me. Mm-hmm. It's becoming a lot because when everyone starts becoming your best friend, right? It's a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm always the type of person as one door started to close with me thinking, you know what? I really can't go at this rate any longer. Another door was opening up. And at that time I had met Ritter with Speaking to Your Spirit. Mm-hmm. And it was an instant connection. It was as if God just literally swung me from one to another and landed me, so beautifully with working with her. So it was a beautiful transition that as one thing shifted from me doing my mental health counseling work to now coaching, it was such a beautiful shift because they mirror each other quite a bit, but I get to lose some of the tape, that just comes with and really to talk to people on some of the same things, right? Whether coping, communications, dealing with our families better, trying to figure out what we want to do with our life. What's our purpose, right? And how do we, so they mirrored each other so beautifully. So the way my journey just has been going, it's landed me right here where I get to be a spiritual and mental health wellness coach. And I love it.
Wow.
Okay. I love it. Yeah.
What a story.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. So, Angela, what does mental wellness mean to you? And is that the same as being happy? Because people think, okay, I'm happy. So what does mental wellness mean?
So mental wellness in the grand scheme of things, it's simply the statement of saying that an individual realizes their own abilities, what they can do, what they can't do, right? But also, can they cope with the normal stressors that come with our normal day life, right? Now, we all know we've got our jobs, we've got our IDs, we know who we are, right? It could be a daughter, a mother, a sister, a worker, a father, whatever, right? And they come with their normal loads, right? Mm-hmm. But when loads become burdens, when they start stopping you from getting things done, when it's making it so that you can't sleep at night, when it's making it so that you're not eating, right? Mm-hmm. When it's really taking up a lot of space in your mind, it starts to shift your actual mental wellness, right? And of course, we know those are just simply those starting grounds to much deeper problems like anxiety and depression, and can lead into some of those things, right? Mm-hmm. But when we think of happiness is simply that outward expression, right? It's just what we're putting out there. It's the activities we do. It's the events we go to. It's what we do for self-care, right? Maybe it's that color that you paint that wall that makes you feel good, right? Mm-hmm. People paint a wall yellow because yellow is the color of what? Happiness.
That's right.
I'm going to be happy now that I've got a yellow wall, right? Yeah. But it's an outward expression. So it's not quite the same. So it's that idea that when your mental wellness is your ability to cope with your normal life stressors, but a person pursues happiness, right? You look for it. Mm-hmm. That's going to be that big difference. But your mental wellness is simply how you are reacting to what's occurring in life. Mm-hmm. Successful or not.
Yeah. Okay.
What about depression? What is it exactly? And what are some of the symptoms?
Right. So depression, put it this way, depression is when you are diagnosed. I always want people to make sure I say this word, diagnosed. We get that, what is it? The misrepresentation that some people say, oh, I'm really sad, so I'm depressed now, right? No, depressed is when you are diagnosed by a doctor, right? But it's that constant feeling of sadness and loss, maybe of having that lack of connection, but it stops you from doing your normal activities. Like I mentioned before, like going to work, sleeping, eating, taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, right? So that's going to be what depression is. And it's important, like I said, to note, there are a multitude of different types of depressions, right? I mean, you've got some that are like depressive disorder, which is like the really big one, right? And even with that, it goes from just kind of being a single episode to like reoccurring all the way to being specified at all, happening multiple times, being severe. So it kind of has that, spectrum, right? Mm-hmm. So it's sometimes it can be something as simple as light interventions, right? You can manage it yourself, to all the way to being medicated, possibly hospitalization, maybe getting intense therapies, right? So when depression, it's a much deeper level than just I'm sad today, right? Recognize also that you have to be able to hold, you got to have these symptoms for a period of time. It's about 2 weeks, right? Of constantly being in this and having multiple symptoms, right? So just being sad does not equal depression, which I think a lot of people see mixed up.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, that is some good information, Angela, because
it is.
We hear that term used so much, and I've actually used it myself. But what you just said clarified that, and that we're not to just use that loosely when we're just sad or having a bad day. So, thank you for that.
Yeah. Just to add that goes with, I think, any type of mental health, right? That's the stigma that's on it. Because some people say, oh, that person's crazy. How many times have we heard that?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Or that person's lazy and they're not depressed. They're just lazy. These stigmas, we just keep putting those on these things, and we're taking away, which I think makes it a little bit more difficult for people to say, hey, something's not quite right.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then, how prevalent is depression in our community?
It's gotten bad, y'all. Let me put it that way. That's a simple word that I will say, bad. We are at some record high numbers when it comes to depression in our community. So just to kind of put this into a little bit of perspective, I am normally not quite the statistics guru, but I pulled some statistics because I think these numbers make a lot of sense. So if we look at our population of the US, people that identify as being either Black or African-American are 13.4%. Okay. So over that, 16% are saying that they have reported at least having some type of mental illness in the past year. Okay. Now, mind you, these numbers are the very, very beginning of 2020.
That's what when you just said that, I
Yeah.
thought, oh my goodness, that's recent. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? But and even still though, this is not even as a result of what COVID's done to us yet.
Right.
So this is just saying something's going on. So if you recognize that's over 7 million people, right? 7 people in our community. So my thing is when I tell people you go to church or you go to the grocery store and you're in your community, you look left and you look right, guarantee you somebody's dealing with something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or they have someone in their family that's dealing with something. It's that big. So it's recognized population, to put it in numbers, that is enough to fill Chicago, Houston, and Philadelphia.
Wow.
It's huge. So even just looking at anxiety and depression. So back in January to June of 2019, African Americans were basically saying that, anxiety was at about 8% of reporting to saying, hey, I've positively screened for saying that I've got some anxiety. It was about 8%. The US average, 8% as well. You get to May 28th to June 2nd of 2020, we jumped up to 34%.
Oh my.
Right.
Goodness.
The US average was 31.
Wow.
We are higher than the US average for screening. For
US average.
Yeah, it's scary. You look
very scary.
Depression at the beginning of 2019 was 8% Blacks, right? Saying that they screened for it. 7% was the average. When we get to what happened in 2020, we were at 30% Blacks and the US average was 25%. So we were above the average of saying that we are anxious and depressed.
Right. And Angela, we know that when someone is depressed, they're not dealing with that in a vacuum. So that then is impacting their family, their community, their relationships. It's so there's so many layers to that. So wow. Tremendous impact.
And then if you think about it, ladies, a part that I want, your listeners especially to recognize is, didn't we go through something else a little bit during 2020? We were going through this whole racial injustice.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Yeah.
Right? So if you think about that, it's
No, I was just going to say that and the president that we were dealing with.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So many things that were just not putting us in the best light. Right. So we were going through what they call it. It's called a syndemic. That was a new word for me, syndemic. And it's synergistic.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
Right. It's the synergistic nature of the health and the social problems facing a poor and underserved population. So we're COVID, right? And then we're going through racial injustice.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like two things. And plus, of course, there's still that stigma, still Black in America.
Yeah.
Ourselves, right?
Right.
And just what that meant, because, there was that whole big thing when it all went down, right? A lot of people of different races were coming to ask us questions, right? That caused a lot of people to feel so anxious because they're like, I don't know what to say.
That's right.
Right. That was an additional weight that we were carrying in addition to everything else. I certainly, and I'm sure we all experienced it. I'm gonna tell you, I can relate to what you're saying on that, because it was like people were looking for your voice to try to get a better understanding. And you're always walking around hoping you say the right thing so that you can actually be part of the solution. But there was a tremendous amount of weight that was attached to that during that time. So
absolutely, it was.
It was rough. And of course, none of us wanted to be the one that says, yes, I speak for the entire race, because feel and how the rest of us feel, it's going to be different.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Well, and I'm going to tell you, not only do you not feel comfortable saying that you speak for the entire race, listen, from day to day, I could change depending on what I saw on the news. You might get one Lou on Monday, and depending on what jumped off on Thursday, you might get another version. So them earrings might be coming off by the end of the week, right? Exactly.
There you go. Yeah. And for me, it was just like, you know what? This isn't my problem to solve. So don't ask me. For a solution.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You guys
and I think that's so
you guys need to fix yourselves.
Yeah. Right. And it's so fair. It's so fair that and my thing is, you did the right thing. I'm putting these boundaries up because you know what? I'm gonna stay safe right here in this.
Yeah.
That's
I
right.
get it.
That's
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wanna go back for a second, and talk about what can we do if we're worried about a friend or a family member's mental health?
Absolutely. So the first thing that I say is I thank God that you noticed something. Thank God that you got that. Thank God that you saw that feeling or it made you even think, because I think there are so many people that really feel like when you're going through depression, when you're going through anxiety, when you've got a mental health diagnosis of anything, a lot of times you feel alone. You feel like you're not seen. You feel like you're not heard. Right. So you being that person that's like, I think I noticed something. It's taking that first step where I say, you thank God. Then I want you to take that thing, be open to talk to them, especially if they're open to maybe talk back. Sometimes it's just saying, how are you feeling today? How are you really doing? You know, we so often pass people like, hey, how are you? I'm good. Or I'm fine. And you keep going.
Right.
You know, this is that opportunity where you don't just take fine as a final answer, right? It's like, okay, well, what's going on? How you sleeping? You know, ask some of those questions that you know do relate. Because, you know, when it comes to some of the symptoms that we deal with being depressed, you know, it can be aches and pains. It physically is in the body. You know, there's bloating that sometimes happen, changing in appetite, right? Not sleeping, really sick all the time because their immune system's gotten weak because they're not taking care of themselves. There's things that you can just notice and you can ask them and be comfortable enough to ask those questions. The big one, of course, is that if you notice someone is really taking it to another level and you are suspecting suicide, this is that one that makes people kind of cringe. And I'm grateful that you all had it on your podcast a couple weeks ago talking about that. But it makes people cringe when we talk about it. But it's being bold enough, brave enough, strong enough, and having enough faith in the question to you to be able to ask them, have you considered taking your life? Have you considered harming yourself or someone else? Do you have a plan? Because it's one of those things where people there's statistics that prove that many times, I don't know the exact number, so I don't want to quote it wrong, but it's like they want to be able to say, yeah, I've thought of it. For someone to just simply say, see you, and I want to help you through this, right? It's also not taking on the role of being the martyr in this, right? It's not being the one like, I'm going to save you. Because there are people that are designed to do this. There are people that I believe are God-led to be able to do this. There are Christian counselors, if that's something that's important to you. There are counselors that are, you know, Black women, Black men. They're a little bit harder to find. You know, we're they're a dime a dozen sometimes, but it's becoming more and more prevalent. So it's really also guiding them to the people that will really be able to help them. If you are not sure, it's also that idea where it's, you know, there's community centers in all of our communities, especially I know in Virginia. Virginia's got, you know, quite a few in different communities. Just go on Google, look at the community center that will be able to help them and maybe offer to drive them, offer to take them, right? Taking those opportunities to really be able to be there for support for them. The last I really want to make sure that I say, because I think this is very important, especially for our community. If a crisis is happening, right, and a loved one is going through, you know, a mental health crisis, right? Not really sure what's going on. You need help. We always know you call 911, right? But in our community, we know that can mean something very different when we're trying to, right? It's scary. So it's making sure that you say, hey, and you talk in a very calm voice. I don't care how upset you are and what's going on. Talk to the person calmly, you know, and tell them I need a crisis intervention team. Let them know the situation. Let them know you have someone that is experiencing a mental health crisis. Let them know that they're not armed. Let them know that, you know, don't send a lot of police officers into something bad because, you know, there's different things. So it's really making sure that you're asking for the right type of help. But again, the big thing I say is thank God that you noticed it and be that one that's willing to help them figure out to get the support that they need.
And I just want to thank you for that point about when you call, remain calm and ask specifically for a crisis intervention specialist, because you are absolutely right that we all know things can escalate very quickly when someone is in a mental health crisis. So yeah. Thanks for sharing that. So, Angela, we hear a lot of talk about the physical impacts of COVID, but I just want to talk about, are there mental health implications as well that people are dealing with? Because I've been reading and people, you know, tell me, well, you know, I've read that people have had COVID and then you're always like guarded that, okay, am I completely recovered? And then people who have not had it walking around on eggshells, like, okay, when is that shoe gonna drop? So talk to us a little bit about the physical, talk to us a bit about the mental health implications of this pandemic.
So the one I can speak on, they are still doing some studies about how actually contracting COVID, experiencing the symptoms, and then recovering from it, what the mental impacts of that can do. But what I can talk about is the fact of like just the pandemic in itself. If you think about it, when was it March, the second week in March, when everything shut down, right? And it was that instant, it felt like the world stopped for a second.
Yeah.
Right? The world stopped.
Scary.
It really
scary.
did.
Yeah.
It really
I mean,
it was. Yeah.
Right? Not sure what we were going to do, but also thinking maybe we're only going to be away from work for a couple days, maybe a couple,
right.
No more than a couple months, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and that just that fear. So they were saying that, there's some studies that are going out now that are talking about just being at home in isolation, right? For some people, depending on their circumstance, depending on their home lifestyle, is really no different than solitary confinement in prison.
Whoa.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
You think about it, right? Can't go anywhere. We got curfews, mandates. Maybe if you live alone, right? There was live alone, right?
Right.
You couldn't go and be with people. You couldn't touch and hug people.
Right.
Thinking of all those things that were a part of that really have shaped how people are feeling. I did a webinar a couple months ago that was talking about the love languages, right? And we know the love languages, and the big ones when I think that what COVID messed up was what? Physical touch, quality time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if those are your love languages, and those are what make you feel loved, the absence of love, it goes hand in hand. So that's why I think that depression really did go on a rise. People could have been in households. I mean, my household's full. But if I was a person that was like that and needed something specific, if I was living alone, and physical touch and quality time were my primary and my secondary love languages. I don't care how often people called me on the phone. I don't care how many emails I got of I love you. I don't care how many Zoom meetings we tried to have. I don't care if somebody even sent me food to my house, right?
You're right.
Loved, right? And it can pull on you. Because if that's your way of feeling it, it'll pull. So there's definitely been that feeling of people feeling that level of, social distancing, being able to hug. You think about how the holidays were that last go round.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we saw a skyrocket in numbers because some people were like, I don't care. I'm going to go be with my family. And of course, what that resulted in.
Right.
Now we're on this side where it's like, many of us are vaccinated and feel a little bit more comfortable. So it's like things are getting a little bit better. So I do believe, I will say that I'm on the side where I do see the trend changing a little bit as people are starting to come together more. But I also think people are learning to have this new level of even appreciation for life in a type of way. And I think that almost maybe being scared that you weren't going to have it anymore or that you've lost has changed our perspective. Now, in the same token, there's that level where depression is set in for some folks, right? Grief can do a lot of things to depression, right? It can you can be doing a lot better, be feeling great. Grief comes in and just it takes you down. So it's really recognizing that, the people that were younger adults, people that are, different minority groups, essential workers, those unpaid, right? Adult caregivers are experiencing disproportionately, amount of having just a lot of problems where it comes to like mental health outcomes are really bad, substance abuse, and really high, and elevated suicidal ideations. The result of COVID.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. Some very serious implications. So.
Wow. Yeah. So we hear a lot about depression during the holidays. What should we be looking for to identify that? And would you just give us some tips to help?
Absolutely. So I'm excited about this. So I'm actually doing a workshop where we're talking about it. It's called strategies to combat holiday because we've got to be able to fight this thing because we can. Recognizing that the holidays in general for a lot of people are just hard. They're just difficult. Even before this pandemic, it can be hard for people. It can be those memories of, I would say, Christmas and holidays past that make it a little different because they're so changed today.
Right. Yeah.
Some of the people, with COVID alone, we lost a lot of people. So the holidays are going to look different. So the first thing is I'm going to tell you, give yourself, give the people around you some grace, y'all. Give them grace. Okay. Because it can be really a hard time. And sometimes people do not act their best selves. But I think that also we can set situations up so that people really do get to be their most authentic self, their best self, and really understand what's kind of going on with them. But it's also recognizing that idea that we are hitting colder months. There's a thing called seasonal depression, right? It's real. It's real, right? The colder temperatures, less sunshine, right? That's why everyone feels better in the summertime, because we get that sunshine.
Yeah.
Yep. Get that sunshine and need it and feed off of it. And it's like, okay, I feel good. Wintertime hits and it's like, oh my,
that's right.
That, you're wearing that mental fur coat, right? And it weighs you down.
That is me.
Yeah. Right. It's like, no, give me some sunshine, please. Right. And don't let it be a rainy day. Don't let me have just gotten some snow and it's cloudy. No, you can give me some snow, but give me some sunshine, please, with it. Right. Because it changes. Right. So it's giving people some grace. And I think that's really important. It's really noticing also those extreme symptoms like we talked about. Are there some suicidal ideations? Are they not eating? Right. Are you noticing they're having a lot of aches and pains? Are they always sick? Right. Are there always these weird colds? Like it's never COVID, but they're always like, oh, I can't be out because I'm worried about something. Is there maybe something going on? So it's recognizing those things. And like I said earlier, being bold enough, being strong enough, being prayerful enough even to be able to ask those maybe hard hitting questions. And I will tell you, it's one of those things, don't always push so hard, right? But in the token, with us loving people, do all that you can, right? You talk to them, provide them the right things, put numbers in the right places. I mean, even our refrigerator at my home, the suicide hotline number is right on our refrigerator.
Wow.
I don't hold it against it. That's on our fridge, just like what to expect if somebody has a stroke. The poison hotline for it's one and the same, right? It's one and the same because we don't look at mental health the same way I think that we look at having diabetes.
That's right. That's right.
Heart disease.
Yeah.
No, we wouldn't tell someone, oh, you just gonna get over it.
Yeah.
The holidays are here. You just can't know. There's always an opportunity where you can be able to be that bridge to be able to help someone because we understand difficult times, right? Although it's supposed to be very joyous times, right? It's recognizing it. So, some of the tips that
I was going to ask, you said not to push, but what if you just want to get that family member involved, right? Like if you're spending time, say, around the tree and that person that is feeling a little down because of the holidays, what do you do? How do you get them engaged? How, if you can't push, what do you do?
My thing is, I think there are those levels of having your opportunities to be creative. So let's say it was the tree instance. Some things that I personally might do, it might be, create an ornament, right? That's very specific ornament that maybe is for if they're dealing with some grief of that person, right? That they're grieving. Maybe that it's just the most beautiful ornament. And it's like, you know what? I want you to put this one on because it's so beautiful. It's giving that loving encouragement. You know what I'm saying? Where it's okay. You do the small things to make them feel involved without pushing. Because if they say, because then they still see it, might have an emotion and they might not want to put it on there, but it still is connecting them to the process of what's happening, right? It could be the idea if you know that maybe they are, I usually say grief because I feel like grief during the holidays is usually when we see it the highest. But it's like, it's getting them to maybe tell a story of that person, getting them to tell a story of their most excited Christmas, do something that might make them laugh. We come from a family where we love playing games. I think that playing games is the best way to get everyone involved because we all know during the holidays, especially, you have the idea that everyone's coming from everywhere, maybe, right? Family and friends. Somebody always has that new girlfriend or boyfriend. Right? Have the people that are in the corner that are kind of the introverts, don't really want to say anything, but you see them still laughing, want to be involved. You get the crazy uncle who's all fun and jovial and loud. And you get that really competitive person, which is myself in the family, that really gets everyone involved. So it's finding things like that. So we usually play like charades or fishbowl. We give grace to those that don't want to act, right? But still let them participate and guess. We still, it's those ways. It's like when you have kids at a party and you just still get them involved. You figure out the ways to just bring a little bit of fun, bring a little bit of joy. But I think the other big part, my last tip, do those things that are those traditions that you hold so dear, right? Even if you have to do something to change them, to bring them into a modern approach, adapt them because the person's no longer there, still hold those things that are, those small things that are a part of the tradition. Because I feel as a people in general, we've lost a lot of our tradition, right? We've lost a lot of who we are at a core. And I think that it's so important that there's those small things that we just hold really dear, that we are saying, you know what, I am claiming this for the holiday season. We're at least going to do this one thing, right? And get everybody forward, but then give grace to the rest, because you know, there are those times where we want to get together with family, drive all over town, hang out with people we don't want to hang out with, see family members we don't want to, eat food. Don't want to, because we know in our community it's rude not to eat. Right. So it's embodying all of that, right? And saying, you know what? What are my boundaries? What are my limitations? What can I say that I will do? What traditions am I going to hold true? Right. And being intentional, just be intentional. So if someone's going through some difficult times, right, do something a little different. One other way is volunteering. They always have that statement, you know, to feel better, you got to give some of yourself. Doing for others does make you feel better. So, you know, opportunities like that could always be fun.
Yeah, great tips. So now in our community, we talked about this a little bit earlier when we talked about the stigma. And you spoke briefly about the value of counseling, but we know that seeking help through counseling is often discouraged. And again, there's a stigma attached to it. So if you had the opportunity, and this is your chance, what would you say to encourage people to utilize this valuable resource? So talk to us a little bit about the benefits of counseling.
Absolutely. So when it really comes down to it, these stigmas and these myths that we have surrounding mental health are disgraceful. They are absolutely disgraceful, because the way I see it, what do you call it? Having a mental illness, being crazed, as they used to say, having an extra aversion, as you say, goes all the way back to biblical times. So for people to think that it does not exist, I'm like, read your book. It's here. You know, it never says that it wasn't. But also recognizing that with creating these stigmas, right, we're creating needless and undue pain and confusion that's stopping people from getting the help they need. Right, by us saying, "Oh, she's crazy," or those horrible statements, "Oh, she's just a little slow." Right? We've used these words in such horrible, disgraceful ways, right, to just really talk about our people and what we're going through. Right. Some people, yes, there are some people that have the ability to snap out of things a little bit faster than others. But then there are some people, because even with depression, a lot of people don't know other medication that you could be on could be impacting the fact that you have depression. So how that, you know, it's one of those things where it's the cause and effect of something else. So for me, it's that idea that we've got to get rid of the stigma. We've got to really encourage people that the truth in getting that you getting the help you need is your true strength. Being able to be strong enough to say, you know what, I can't do this by myself, right? Even Jesus had an opportunity for someone to try to come in and carry the cross for him a little bit to help him. Right? That we're not, you know, we don't always have to do these things by ourselves. So my thing when it comes to getting yourself help, just like I said before, if diabetes or heart disease or some of these other afflictions are a part of you, you would go to the doctor just the same. You would tell your mother, your father, go to the doctor just the same. Right. We don't see those, you know, can't look at someone and say, oh, you've got diabetes, you've got lupus, you've got cancer. We sometimes can't just always look at someone and just see that that's what they have. So I want us to treat mental illness no different. Because like I said before, these people are feeling alone. They already feel unheard. They might already have a lot of stuff going on truly in their heads, and having the stigma of them thinking that they can't reach out for help or no one wants to hear them. Or you know the right words to say, because I think that's another big part. We have heard that thing, and I know y'all have probably heard it 1,000,001 times, being a strong Black woman, right?
Oh, yeah.
I am at a point now where it's like, don't call me.
That's a burden.
Right, exactly. Because my thing is, me being a strong Black woman means that I've had to endure, that I've had to fight, to push through so many things, right? It also associates with depression. Being a strong Black woman associates with having anxiety. You know, being a strong Black woman is very much associated also with loneliness. Right.
Wow.
And that's that thing where it's like, we've got to remove these things.
Right.
Because my thing is, if I'm going through something, right, it should be no different. If I fall and break my leg, or if I realize that I can't get out of bed for a couple of days, that I've got no will to keep going, I should be able to go to a place and be supported in going to get the help that I need.
Right.
Wow. That is awesome. Thank you.
So
for that.
what I want our audience to hear is that it starts with us individually, how we're responding and talking to people and interacting. We have got to do better at normalizing that response. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Because and also I just like to add, I walk in mine, right? I'm a coach. I've worked in mental health, but I walk in mine. I have no problem telling people that I've got ADHD, right? I mean, half the time I feel like with my energy, they already know and tell me themselves, right? But to the fact that I've dealt with PTSD, right? I've had some really bad traumas, including a school shooting, right? Of being involved in that and being around that is impacted. Right. Teresa, I'm with you. That seasonal depression part, when I don't get that sunshine, y'all, it changes me. It physically changes me. And that gets the level where I want people to really understand. It gets to a serotonin level, a dopamine level. It's those levels. It's not always just, well, you can perk yourself out of it. No, if my levels are low and they're not right, something's not connecting. Right. So it's being able to be proud and walking in who you are. Right. Yes, I have these things, but I always tell people I might be all these things, but at the end of the day, I'm still a child of God.
That's right.
And I know that I'm going to get through and I'm through beautifully because I know that I'm walking in alignment with what I'm supposed to do. And if it's helping some people along the way to not be shamed in who they are either, then I'm doing what I'm supposed to.
Oh yeah, that's a definite win. So
yeah, that's right. I can tell that your clients are completely blessed by you.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I agree.
Thank you for that. So let's talk about you just a little bit. Okay. So what do you do outside of work to help you maintain a healthy, well-balanced life?
Absolutely. So for myself, I'm big on self-care. I have recognized, especially during this pandemic, how important it is to make sure that I'm good. It is that idea that I need to put my mask on first before I can help anybody else, because neither one of us are going to have anything if I have to try to help first, right?
That's right.
Pouring out of empty. I can't pour out of empty. I recognize for me physically, even with my body, that being stressed out, being worried about things doesn't do me any good, right? So I do a lot of things like that. One thing that we really hold precious that Speak to Your Spirit with Rita Ricks is that, we've got this three-step mantra that we just do. This 3 sets of things that we do every single day. And it starts off with waking up each morning and reading a devotional or a word, starting my day off with something that's good, right? Starting off with like the daily Om even. Like it doesn't have to always be a religious devotion.
Right.
Good words, right? Sometimes for me, it's even poetry. Right? Just getting something that's good, because so often we can do what? Reach over, grab our phone instead, get on social media and see everything that's wrong with the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or the comparison that we do between each other. Like it can be dangerous, right? That being your first thought, that first thing you see when you wake up. So I start with a really good word. Then I spend about 15 to 30 minutes journaling. And with my journaling, usually it starts off with it's a love letter to God. That's how I've always written them, with God, how much I love you, how much I adore you, how thankful I am that you woke me up this morning. And then I write the things that I'm grateful for, right? It's really hard to be in a bad mood. It's really hard to not feel good about yourself. Really hard to not be grateful when you put a list of all the things that you do have, right? That you're grateful for each day. And I do my best to really mix them up, right? And then I finish with silence. Rita and I very much believe that the solution is in the silence, right? And being able to spend 15 to 30, sometimes if I got a good day, an hour in silence. And when I say silence, I'm cutting off, I'm turning, I've got, I can go into my shed here. I've got do not disturb on my door. My phone, like I said, is on do not disturb. I am on do not disturb. And
I like that.
and I let it download. So we even have an opportunity for, our clients, because we recognize how powerful just this is, right? Doing this daily, that we have a silent retreat. It is every second Tuesday. It is a free virtual retreat. Anyone is welcome to come. We get online at 9 a.m. We do praise and worship. Rita reads a beautiful message. We do a devotional. I lead us in a guided meditation. And then I send them off to be silenced for 4 hours. Then we come back together and we just share the testimonies of what God said to us, what he spoke to us, how we got downloaded on, the verses that we went to that spoke to us differently, the prayers that we even said for others as we hear what everyone's standing in need for. It has developed this tribe, right? And like I said, anyone's welcome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So how can people access that again, Angela?
Absolutely. So if you just go to our website at speaktoyourspirit.com, and then go under events, you'll see listening to the silence, and you just register through that. So you'll click it, it'll bring you to our form. You'll just say that I want to be a part of listening to the silence. And then I will send you the email so that you can get on with it.
Wow.
It's, y'all, when I tell you it's powerful, I've had people on there that have been like, you know what, God called me by a new name, right? Changed the way I think. God reminded me to tell my husband that I loved him daily, right? Like there's all these little things, you also that level of being silenced. Because so often, we as women, especially, we are always on that hustle, bustle. And when do we just sometimes stop to focus on how our body feels?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I knew my back was hurting, but I didn't know the pain was really there.
Right.
It's taking time for me. I love it. I tell people, come to the silence. It's the first time, that 4 hours, especially when you're not used to it, it can sometimes be a little challenge, right? Because it's like, man, I can't even be quiet for 5 minutes. You want me to be quiet for 4 hours, right?
Right.
But being able to do that, and the best part I think that really helps is that we know noise in itself, right? You think of people that live in cities, people that live near airports, right? We know the education level of them are lower in more noisy populations than in more rural and quiet neighborhoods. So imagine just in yourself, if you are quiet for 4 hours. Once a month. Imagine what that just does good for your body.
Right.
That does good for your body. You control your breathing, you slow down your rhythm, you get yourself grounded. Right. So those are the big things that I do. And then the one last thing that I'll just add, I am a big moon lover. The moon has, ever since I was a little child, I have just loved gazing at the moon. And as she is constantly changing in her phases, there's those moments when, like, especially late at night, because I am a night owl, I'll just go out there and I don't care how cold or warm it is. And I will just go and I'll stare at her for a few minutes. Sometimes I'm praying. Sometimes I'm just telling God how thankful I am. Sometimes, like, you know what? I'm just looking for just a moment of just peace. Something about the moon has just always brought me that level of peace. So those things that bring you joy. I don't care how silly they are. It's finding those things that bring you joy.
Right. Wow.
And then they're not silly.
No.
Right. There you go. Right.
No.
They're not silly.
Not at all. But Angela, thank you so much for joining us. I agree. I ditto Teresa's comments that your clients, I already know they are blessed by you, because I can, your energy, your love, and your skill is coming through just in us talking. So again, thank you so much for talking with us. And do you have anything you want to share with our listeners before we end?
I want to thank you all. Like I said, Earrings Off, y'all speak to my absolute soul. And I have just so enjoyed this conversation. And I love the fact that you all are just taking this opportunity to really educate your audience. So I just want to thank you all so much. And I want to thank your audience. I would love people to, of course, follow me. Like I said, please go to yourspirit.com. Rita and I have got so much information there. The big part is when you go to our website, you'll notice in the bottom right hand corner, there's a beautiful circle that says subscribe. Subscribe so that you can be a part of our newsletter. We send out great things throughout the week. We also let you know of some upcoming events, because Rita and I are always doing something and always busy, whether it's a retreat, small group, one-on-one coaching, or workshops. We're always doing something. And then, of course, everyone can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Miss Angela Coaches, and that's MissAngelaCoaches. And I'd be happy, of course, to answer questions and talk to folks and just be able to spread some more love.
All right. Again, thank you so much for coming. We've enjoyed it, and we know it's going to be of great value to our listeners.